All right, so today we're going to dig into the hidden story behind lithium. The one single material that basically makes our entire clean energy future possible. It's an incredible story, full of promise, for sure, but also packed with intense conflict and a global competition that is literally reshaping our world. Let's get right into it. You see them everywhere now, right? These sleek, silent electric vehicles. They've really become the poster child for the green revolution, this huge shift away from fossil fuels. And look, with the transportation sector pumping out about a quarter of our planet's CO2 emissions, this switch isn't just a nice idea, it is absolutely critical. But have you ever really stopped to think about what's inside these incredible machines? I mean, what is the one single indispensable ingredient that makes this whole electric dream even work? Well, it's this. It's lithium. It might not look like much, but this silvery white metal is the beating heart of the lithium-ion batteries that power, well, everything, from our phones to our cars. It's become so valuable, so completely essential that it's earned this nickname, white gold. And the global rush to get it is changing everything. So how did this one element become such a massive global obsession? Well, the answer really lies in the incredible, mind-boggling scale of the green energy transition that we're all watching happen in real time. Now, what I find so interesting about this is just how completely one single industry dominates the picture. I mean, sure, lithium is used in things like ceramics and glass, but a whopping 74% of it goes straight into batteries. And we're not just talking about cars, we're talking about huge energy storage systems that make things like wind and solar power actually reliable. It is, no exaggeration, the bedrock of this entire battery revolution. And the demand, it's just exploding. A 10-fold increase by 2040. Just think about that for a second. We are at the very, very beginning of a demand curve that is about to go almost vertical. This incredible pressure to find more, extract more, and control more lithium is exactly what's creating this brand new, really complicated geopolitical landscape. So where does all this white gold actually come from? Well, turns out most of it is concentrated in one very specific region of the planet, a place that's now being called the Saudi Arabia of lithium. Let's take a look. We're talking about the Lithium Triangle. It's this vast, super arid region of high-altitude salt flats that stretches across parts of Argentina, Bolivia, and Chile. Over half, let me repeat that, over half of the world's known lithium resources are locked away in the salty brine just beneath these deserts. This insane concentration of one resource makes this region one of the most strategically important places on the entire planet for the 21st century economy. But here's where it gets really fascinating. These three countries, they're all neighbors, but they have completely different game plans for how to manage this treasure. Chile, for its part, calls lithium a strategic resource. It's managed centrally through these state-controlled partnerships with private companies. Then you've got Bolivia, which has gone for full state control. Their national company, YLB, is trying to manage the whole shebang, from the mining all the way to battery production. And then there's Argentina, which is totally different. It has this decentralized, liberalized system where individual provinces call the shots, which has created this wide open field for foreign companies to come in. As you can imagine, these different strategies create some very different opportunities and a lot of conflict. And this brings us right to the central paradox of our story today, because for all the talk of a clean future, the process of getting the stuff we need to build it, well, it can be anything but clean. This is the clean future's dirty secret. Let's just start with a single, staggering number. To produce just 1 ton of lithium, you have to evaporate 500,000 liters of water. And remember, this is happening in some of the driest places on Earth, where every single drop is absolutely precious. This whole thing is part of a bigger economic model that a lot of critics call extractivism. So what is that? Well, essentially, it's a system where you generate wealth by pulling huge amounts of raw materials out of the ground in one country, usually in the global south, and then you ship them to be consumed in another, usually in the global north, all while leaving the environmental and social mess behind. And the costs are so real. As this researcher points out, it's not just about the sheer quantity of water being used up. This massive evaporation process can actually make the groundwater and the soil that's left behind saltier, threatening the very foundations of local farming and ranching that have existed in these areas for centuries. So, here's the crucial point. this is not happening in some empty desert. Indigenous communities like the Kola and the Atacama, they live here, and they are watching as their ancestral lands and their scarce water resources are threatened. Now, international law often says they have to give their prior, free, and informed consent for projects like these. But these communities say that rule is just ignored all the time, which leads to intense social conflict. And way too often, the incredible wealth that flows from these mines just leaves the region, leaving the local people with all of the pollution and almost none of the profit. These local conflicts are really just a small-scale reflection of a much larger global struggle. The race for lithium has become a new great game, and it's redrawing the geopolitical map, pitting the world's superpowers against each other. And this chart, wow, this tells you pretty much everything you need to know about who is winning that game right now. Just take a look at the investment in Argentina and Bolivia. China's investment, that's the red bar, it absolutely dwarfs the investment from Europe and the United States. They have moved in so aggressively and so strategically to lock up access to the source. So what you have are two completely different strategies playing out. China's playbook is all about something called vertical integration, basically owning every single step of the process. They invest in the mines to get the raw lithium, they process it in their own refineries, and they build the final batteries in their factories. It's a long-term strategy to control the entire market, from top to bottom. The U.S. strategy, on the other hand, it feels a lot more reactive. It's focused on national security, scrambling to counter China's influence, trying to build new alliances, and desperately looking for other places to get these minerals to reduce this dependency. And really, the stakes could not be higher. Because right now, China's overwhelming control of the battery supply chain means that the green energy transitions in the United States and Europe are fundamentally dependent on a strategic rival. This is a massive vulnerability, and Western governments are scrambling to figure out what to do about it. All of this, the environmental damage, the social conflict, this massive geopolitical rivalry, it all brings us to one final really critical question. We know we have to get off fossil fuels, but how do we do it in a way that's actually just? What does a fair and equitable green transition really look like on the ground? Well, a lot of experts propose a path forward, but it's not simple. It has to start with making sure the huge profits from mining actually benefit the local communities on the front lines. It requires tough environmental rules that are actually enforced, and crucially, it means giving indigenous groups a real voice, a real seat at the decision-making table. On a bigger scale, it could mean the Lithium Triangle countries working together, almost like a lithium OPEC, to give them more bargaining power. And finally, it means we have to invest heavily in R&D for the next generation of batteries, ones that could maybe, just maybe, reduce our dependence on these critical minerals altogether. The electric future, it's not some distant dream anymore. It's here. But as we plug in our cars and build our giant battery farms, the paradox is still there. Behind that clean green promise is a really complex and, frankly, often messy reality, which leaves all of us with the one essential question we have to keep asking. Who really is paying the price for our progress?